What happens when transportation meets the most extreme winter conditions on Earth? Imagine regions where snow buries everything in sight, where the cold is so relentless it freezes engine oil solid. In places like this, no ordinary truck could ever function. But giving up was never an option for human ingenuity. That's why engineers designed machines unlike anything else, colossal snow beasts forged from steel, built to crush glaciers, power through blizzards, and reach places that once seemed impossible. Some of these trucks are so huge and unstoppable they feel more like moving fortresses than vehicles. Others became rare legends, known only to those who have witnessed them with their own eyes. But no matter their size or design, they all share one mission: to dominate terrain that would defeat any standard vehicle in seconds. Today, you'll discover the greatest off-road snow trucks in history, machines that turned frozen wastelands into conquerable paths. This is a journey across decades of daring innovation, stories of machines that pushed boundaries and redefined survival in icy frontiers. And make sure to stay with me until the very end, because the truck in first place is unlike anything you've ever imagined. Tatra T813 Kolos. In the 1970s, deep in the heart of what was then Czechoslovakia, engineers unveiled a machine that looked like it had been forged from raw steel and ambition. They called it the Tatra T813 Kolos, and it lived up to its name in every way. This was no ordinary truck. It wasn't built for highways or city streets. It was a true titan, designed for the kind of landscapes where ordinary vehicles vanished without a trace: frozen wilderness, deep mud, and endless snow. When the Kolos rolled out for the first time, it didn't just look powerful. It looked unstoppable. At its heart roared a 12.7-liter V12 diesel engine, delivering around 270 horsepower. On paper, that might sound manageable. But when paired with its enormous size and engineering brilliance, it transformed into brute force unlike anything else on the road. And this wasn't just power for show. The Tatra was an 8-wheel drive monster. Every wheel received its share of torque, giving it the kind of pulling power that made hauling heavy loads across ice and bog feel effortless. Trucks with tracks struggled. Conventional 4x4s failed instantly. But the Kolos kept moving, climbing, dragging, and conquering like a machine carved out of the mountains themselves. Visually, it was intimidating in a way few vehicles could match. The cab was angular, almost militaristic, perched high on a chassis that looked as if it had been built for war. Its wheels were massive, dwarfing anyone who stood beside them, and when it moved, the ground seemed to tremble. But the true innovation of the Kolos wasn't just its size or its engine. It was its independent suspension system on all 8 wheels. At the time, this was revolutionary. Where other trucks bounced, rattled, and risked tipping over, the Kolos glided with eerie control. Drivers compared it to steering a steel ship across ice, always steady, always in command, even when the landscape tried to throw everything at it. Put into action, the Kolos proved its worth immediately. It wasn't designed as a showpiece. It had a job to do, and that job often involved some of the most critical and dangerous missions of the Cold War. In military service, it transported missiles and heavy weaponry across landscapes where no road existed. Glaciers, boreal forests, and blizzards that shut down entire regions couldn't stop it. The Tatra T813 Kolos plowed forward as if nature itself was just another obstacle. Snow-covered hills looked like asphalt ramps beneath its tires. Frozen storms battered its body without shaking its cab. To the men behind the wheel, it felt like commanding a fortress on wheels. But outside the military, the legend of the Kolos grew even larger. Industrial companies began using it in some of the harshest climates on Earth, hauling enormous loads through conditions that would destroy conventional trucks in minutes. And as the years passed, something unexpected happened. Some of these beasts escaped the confines of the army and ended up in private hands. Collectors who admired its raw power and iconic look began restoring them. One European enthusiast even rebuilt a Kolos just to drive it at winter events. Wherever it appeared, crowds gathered, staring in awe as the giant rolled forward, the ground shaking beneath its tires, a relic of another era that still looked futuristic. Even today, the Tatra T813 Koloss stands as a symbol of Cold War engineering, a machine that didn't just defy snow and ice but bent them to its will. It wasn't elegant, and it wasn't subtle. But it was a masterpiece of sheer determination, a reminder that sometimes the simplest idea, more wheels, more power, more control, can create something truly extraordinary. And as incredible as this Titan is, it was only one chapter in a much bigger story. Because while the Koloss showed what Czechoslovak engineering could achieve, the Soviets were preparing their own monsters, machines so vast and powerful they would redefine what was possible in the frozen extremes of the Earth. MAZ 543. When you talk about gigantic trucks built for impossible missions, the MAZ 543 is always in the conversation. Born in Belarus during the Soviet era, this was not a truck for highways or ordinary cargo. It was a machine created for one purpose, taking on the heaviest tasks the military could imagine, and doing it across some of the most brutal landscapes on Earth. Snow, ice, mud, frozen tundra, places where most machines froze, sank, or broke apart. The MAZ 543 didn't just survive in those conditions. It thrived. Underneath its massive cab, this monster concealed an engine that seemed almost unreal. A 38.8-liter V12 diesel. Yes, 38 liters. That's more than the size of engines used in many ships, producing well over 525 horsepower. And every one of those horses was needed, because this truck wasn't pulling small trailers or carrying light supplies. Its main job was to haul intercontinental ballistic missile launchers, loads weighing dozens of tons, across icy plains and snowbound fields without hesitation. It was engineering built for the Cold War, where reliability and sheer power mattered more than looks or comfort. The sight of a MAZ 543 rolling into view was unforgettable. Its chassis was long, stretching like the backbone of some mechanical beast. 8 gigantic wheels carried its bulk, and its forward-positioned cab gave it a silhouette that looked more like a steel train riding on rubber than any kind of conventional truck. When the driver turned the ignition, the ground seemed to brace itself. The deep metallic roar of its diesel engine echoed for kilometers, cutting through the frozen silence of the steppe like thunder. People who witnessed it never forgot the sound. It was raw power made audible. But the MAZ 543 wasn't limited to military service. Its versatility and unmatched toughness made it invaluable in civilian roles as well. In the Arctic, it hauled fuel, construction materials, and heavy machinery to remote outposts where no roads existed. Where smaller vehicles were swallowed whole by snowdrifts, the MAZ simply pressed forward, its tires digging deep, its frame shrugging off the cold as if it was born for it. Its engineering was so robust that even at -40°C temperatures that crippled most engines, it continued to operate without a drop in performance. It didn't complain, it didn't hesitate. It just moved. What most people don't know is that the MAZ 543 also found itself in rescue missions. Entire convoys of trucks would sometimes get trapped in Siberian snowstorms, immobilized by drifts and ice. The MAZ was sent in to pull them free. With its strength and traction, it could drag vehicles many times its size, hauling them back to safety when no other machine could. In those moments, it wasn't just a tool of war. It was a lifeline. Every detail of its design reflected Soviet engineering at its most uncompromising. Everything was oversized. Everything was built to last. The suspension was heavy-duty, the frame was reinforced steel, and every component was designed to withstand punishment most machines would never endure. For drivers, it was less like being in a truck and more like commanding a mobile fortress. Harsh winds battered its sides, snow lashed its body, but inside, the MAZ pressed forward as though nature itself was powerless to stop it. Decades after its introduction, the MAZ 543 remains a legend. Some still operate in the far reaches of Russia, their massive silhouettes moving slowly across the white horizon, carrying out missions as if time had never passed. It represents not just Soviet power, but human determination, the will to go further, to reach places thought unreachable, and to dominate terrains that seemed unconquerable. And yet, as massive and powerful as the MAZ 543 is, it wasn't the end of the line. Because in the relentless race to master the Arctic, an even greater machine was waiting, a true titan built to crush ice, snow, and mountains beneath its wheels. Vityaz DT-10. You thought we'd already seen big and powerful trucks. But what comes next is practically a war tank built for snow. Born in Russia, in a land where winter is endless and terrain can break even the toughest machines, the Vityaz DT-10 is one of the most impressive vehicles ever engineered to crawl across ice and survive. From the very first glance, you know this isn't just a truck. It's a beast on tracks. Its body is split into two massive sections, joined by a central hinge. This articulation gives the Vityaz DT-10 a unique ability. It bends and flexes as it moves, following the contours of the ground like it's alive. Where other trucks rattle, tip, or get stuck, this one flows over obstacles. Its tracks hug every slope and every uneven surface, keeping it balanced no matter how rough the terrain. And those tracks, wide, heavy, unstoppable, make the DT-10 more than a truck. They turn it into a snow-crushing, swamp-crossing, ice-dominating machine. Regular vehicles, even military ones, sink into soft snow or mud. The Vityaz floats across it like it's nothing. Each movement is deliberate, powerful, and unstoppable. Watching one glide across a frozen plain is mesmerizing. Its two halves snake together as though a single body, while the crunch of its tracks blends with the deep growl of its diesel engine, a raw, mechanical heartbeat echoing across the wilderness. Underneath its armored frame sits a 13-liter diesel engine, producing around 420 horsepower. That might sound modest compared to supermodern engines, but in practice, the DT-10 uses every ounce of that power to haul loads up to 10 tons. Fuel tanks, drilling rigs, heavy machinery, even smaller vehicles, this monster carries them all through terrain that would bury any truck with wheels. The Vityaz doesn't care if it's a frozen river, a swamp thawing under spring sun, or rocky permafrost. It presses forward with the same determination, carving its own path where roads don't exist. But the DT-10 is more than just a hauler. It's a lifeline. In Siberia and the Arctic, where towns and research stations are cut off for months at a time, the Vityaz delivers what keeps people alive: fuel, food, and equipment. During emergencies, it's deployed in military operations and rescue missions, venturing into places helicopters can't land and trucks can't reach. Entire convoys rely on its strength to pave the way. Without it, countless remote outposts would simply be unreachable. What makes it even more remarkable is how well it handles the elements. Despite its size and weight, the Vityaz DT-10 distributes that mass perfectly across its long tracks. This allows it to move across thin layers of ice and boggy wetlands without sinking. Imagine standing on the edge of a frozen lake, convinced nothing that big could cross without shattering the surface, then watching this articulated giant roll right over as if it were a solid highway. It's a sight that leaves you stunned, half convinced you just saw the impossible. Decades of harsh winters have tested this machine, but the DT-10 endures. Every snowstorm, every thaw, every frozen wasteland, it doesn't just survive, it dominates. Few vehicles on Earth can operate all year long in such unforgiving environments, but for the Vityaz, it's just another day's work. It stands as proof of what happens when human engineering meets raw necessity. When survival depends on building machines that laugh in the face of nature's fury. The Vityaz DT-10 isn't just a snow vehicle. It's a symbol of resilience, a rolling fortress built to serve in places most of us will never see. And yet, believe it or not, this is not the end. Because if you think the DT-10 represents the peak of snow engineering, brace yourself. The number one truck on our list is so colossal, so mind-bending in scale, it doesn't just conquer snow. It redefines the very limits of imagination. Kress AHT 730C. At the very top of our list stands a machine so extraordinary, it looks like something out of a futuristic film. But make no mistake, this monster is very real. Operating in the harshest environment on the planet, Antarctica, the Kress AHT-730C was built for one purpose: to conquer eternal ice and deliver people and supplies to places that no ordinary vehicle could ever reach. Born in the United States, this colossal wheeled vehicle is an engineering marvel. Even from a distance, it's jaw-dropping. Its tires are nearly as tall as a grown adult, towering over the ice like rolling fortresses. Its frame stretches long and wide, giving it the ability to carry massive payloads, whether it's large groups of scientists or tons of equipment bound for research stations buried deep in Antarctica's frozen wilderness. Every detail of its design screams purpose. This isn't a machine built for comfort or luxury. It's a survival tool, crafted to keep human presence alive in the deadliest climate on Earth. Beneath its steel skin lies its beating heart, a Caterpillar diesel engine producing around 600 horsepower. Now, 600 horsepower might not seem extreme compared to some modern trucks, but in Antarctica, it's not about speed, it's about endurance. That power is delivered slowly, methodically, with the kind of relentlessness that doesn't stop for anything. Deep snow, endless ice fields, and blizzards that can swallow the horizon, none of it phases the Kress AHT-730C. Where regular trucks sink and die within minutes, this giant keeps crawling forward, carving paths across terrain that seems impossible. Watching it in motion is surreal. It doesn't rumble like a normal truck, it glides, almost like a ship at sea, but instead of waves, it sails across a frozen ocean. Its massive tires spread the weight evenly, allowing it to float over snow so soft that it swallows smaller vehicles whole. Each rotation of those tires is like a statement to nature itself: you can't stop me. And the cabin, spacious, heated, and heavily insulated, offers something almost unthinkable in Antarctica: safety and comfort. Imagine sitting inside while outside the wind howls at 40 C, visibility drops to almost nothing, and yet the interior remains warm, stable, and steady, carrying its passengers across a landscape more alien than anything most of us will ever experience. But this isn't just about brute force or survival. The Kress AHT-730C is a lifeline for science. In practice, it has become essential to Antarctic logistics. It hauls fuel, food, research equipment, and even prefabricated buildings from one isolated outpost to another. Without it, sustaining research operations on the frozen continent would be nearly impossible. Planes can land only when weather permits, and helicopters are limited in range. But the Kress AHT-730C? It moves across the ice no matter what. Entire missions depend on it to keep Antarctica's scientific heartbeat alive. Few people know just how advanced its design truly is. This truck wasn't just built to be strong, it was engineered to endure weeks of continuous use without major maintenance. Its systems were crafted to resist freezing winds, constant vibration, and the brutal cold that can crack steel. For the crews who depend on it, the AHT-730C isn't just a truck, it's a guardian, the machine that ensures survival when failure is not an option. And that's what makes it more than just another snow vehicle. The Kress AHT-730C represents the pinnacle of human ingenuity. A machine designed to serve in a place where even nature itself seems to want to drive us away. It's not just steel, tires, and horsepower, it's the reason researchers can continue unlocking the secrets of our planet's last frontier. So while every truck on this list has proven its worth against snow and ice, the Kress AHT-730C stands above them all. A modern legend of polar engineering. A land ship that reminds us humanity doesn't just endure the impossible, we build the machines to conquer it. We've traveled together through the frozen titans of history, from the early Arctic trailblazers of the 1960s to the Soviet monsters of the Cold War, and finally to the Antarctic giant, the Kress AHT-730C. These trucks are more than machines. They're legends of steel, proving that human determination and engineering can tame even the wildest winter landscapes. Now it's your turn. Drop a comment below. Which of these beasts would you climb into? And which one made your heart race just picturing it tearing across endless snow? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell, because every week we uncover machines that defy the elements and push the limits of possibility. See you in the next adventure.